Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, production of iHeartRadio. And welcome to the second episode of our 7-episode miniseries we are doing on season 2 of The Last of Us, which is not a sponsor. As ridiculous as that is.
Ridiculous.
It is very ridiculous. If you're familiar with this segment, then you know basically what we're doing is we're reacting to the previous week's episode, and we're only spoiling that episode plus the previous season, the first game, and parts of the second game, but not plotline parts. We're being very careful here.
We're trying, yes.
We're trying our best. And I think we're doing a pretty good job so far. But yes, this is just a special thing we're doing. Hopefully you enjoy it, even if you haven't watched the show or played the game, although maybe not for this episode, which we'll talk about. But yeah, there's only 7, and then we'll eventually get to season 3 because they're splitting the second game into at least 2 seasons, and I personally think it's going to be 3 seasons. But we will see. That is what we're doing here. I did want to say, before we get into this one, that showrunners have called this the Empire Strikes Back season. So make of that what you will. Also, this is why I need a fandom therapist. I looked it up. There are fandom therapists, but really they're just like therapists that know fandoms. I need to tell me why this upsets you so much when XYZ happens in this game. That's what I need. But anyway, please see our past episodes. But the way these work is Samantha gives the recap, and then I go through all of my thoughts, and I have a lot of thoughts about this one for sure.
Oh, yes. She has many thoughts. I did not count the oh no's because there was too many gasps.
It was I think I gasped the very first moment.
You did before even I think it started. I was like, really?
Because of the sound effect, I was like,
immediately. Like it was like that nothing had happened except for
the sound effect.
So I did not keep count. But I do have some amazing pictures of you and your friends, friends of the show, Marissa and Katie's reaction. And it's quite hilarious. It's a tale. They are tales. But here we go. Are you ready, Anney?
Yep.
Are you sure you're ready? We open to a scene of a dream or not. Abby is going down the hospital corridors because she's hearing the alarms, and as she's going down, hearing screams and muffled screams in the background, we hear someone say, "Don't go in there," because she's reached the operating room, and she turns to look. It's herself, and she's saying, "Don't go in there, don't go in there. You'll regret this. Don't go in there." And they're like, "You're lying." She's saying, "You're lying. There's nothing wrong." Blah, blah. Essentially, it's a back and forth, and finally, she's like, "Okay, you're going to regret this. You're going to see his brains on the floor." And essentially, she goes in, scream, wake up. We find Abby, now up to date, 5 years later. She and her crew are at a cabin close to Joel and Ellie's encampment, Jackson. And they have been searching for Joel the entire time. As the light shines down on them, because apparently I guess they must have gotten there at night and they didn't see. They look out and see that the area that they've been searching for is a giant town. It's not a small keep, like a couple of tents here and there. It is a whole village, and they were not ready. So they have a whole back and forth for a minute about what to do and plans, and Abby is holding firm. She will find Joel. They will find a way. They will find, her plan is to find someone who knows about the town, take them in, get the information that they need, and then ... because they're like, you can't just let them go. And they're like, we'll deal with it. So as Abby gets ready, she's going to go on a patrol herself. The rest of them are coming around together saying, what are we going to do? There's no way we can take them. We're all going to die. In which Owen says, my plan is to convince her to turn around. So end of that. Abby makes her way out in the very freezing cold. Oh, dear God. We come back to Jackson. We see Ellie being woken up by Jesse, saying we need to go on patrol. You got to do your duty, da-da-da. And there's a whole cute back and forth, which is actually in the game about the fact she's like, look, man, last night was crazy. Because he was like, I heard y'all got into some things after I left. And she was like, oh, no, everything was crazy. Dina was drunk. I don't know all these things. And Dina didn't mean it. And he's like, what? I was talking about you get in the fight. And then he's like, it's all f***ed up. I can't believe you would do this, blah, blah. Just kidding. I knew. I don't care type of thing. And then she's like, shut up. And she goes, get ready. He's like, no, but that was kind of f***ed up. And she's like, hey. So they go on, and he keeps talking about what's going on with him, with Joel, with everything. And finally, she's like, Joel and I are good. We're fine. Joel is Joel. I am me. And we're fine. It's just, we've handled it. As in fact, let me go patrol with him. You're getting on my nerves. Let me go patrol with him. And he's like, you can't. He went out with Dina. But also, Maria wants to talk to us. So they go to the cantina where Seth, I guess, owns it or runs it. And Seth apologizes with a steak sandwich. And we had a steak sandwich, Anney. The first episode, thinking that episode was going to be the first episode. We miscalculated. Just
it's because it's the first scene after the title card in the game.
Yeah.
But we not were a little in off. Here.
Yeah. I had to come back to it. Mm-hmm. We were also off on the second one. Anyway, moving on. We didn't do so well with the predictions for the Mills. So we move on, and they are all going on patrol at the same time. We have Tommy giving a spiel about protocols because there's a giant mass amount of infected out there, and they found out they're all under the snow, and there's tons of them. So just be aware. So they have a whole plan about how to keep the city safe, the villages safe, and everybody's responsibilities and duties, doing all this and reminding people what to do and protocols. I feel like that was foreshadowing, obviously. As they are still working on that pipe that we saw from the first episode, he cuts into it and he realizes, oh no, the cordyceps are communicating. And then we flash on to finding Abby still traveling, and she is bound and determined because she just spotted 2 people on a horse. And she's like, okay, I gotta get them. She's going downhill, and she's like steep hills, just sliding all the way down to the point, she loses her gun, and she goes into the middle of nowhere, and she looks around, and she realizes, holy crap, a lot of infected. Lot of bloaters, like just sticking. And it was really a scary scene. She's looking around like, oh my God, what do I do? And they start coming awake because they realize she's there. Also, the communicating with the village. So a lot of things are happening. So she like runs for it, and there's a whole scene. It kind of is like the the Battle of the Bastards scene. Y'all know Game of Thrones people? No? Okay. Anyway, moving on. They run and run and run. She goes to a building and climbs over a wall, and then she's like going to the side and makes the mistake of being around a fenced area, a wire fence, and that scene, because they are trying to get to her every way possible. One breaks through, is like grabbing at her. She goes through, and she's like, oh my God. And then we hear a gunshot, and it's Joel, and he has rescued her, and he pulls her up, and they go around, and they're trying to figure out what to do inside the building. So Dina and Joel and Abby are all together. Oh my God. So during this time, they're trying to figure out where to go, what to do. Abby says, my people are here. They're up in a cabin. We can make it. Let's go. So they're like, make a decision, grab onto each other, and move on. And by the way, Dina's like, who are you? She does.
Where'd you come from?
Where did you come from? So she asks a good question that I'm really surprised Joel didn't ask. We flash back and we realize, holy crap, the infected are coming, and they are all coming for Jackson, and everybody's preparing. We got the whole wall. We've got like barrels crashing with gas, and we got all the guns, people in the village getting ready, people up at top getting ready to shoot. So everything's happening. All the children and women are being like put into bunkers, essentially, while this is going down. And oh my God, we see the giant floater, like the really big, messy one. Messy.
The big boy.
And they know he's coming. And so Tommy yells, they're going to breach because there's no way to stop him. We have flamethrower people getting ready to go. And then 2 of them run away.
You know, the other one is Seth.
The one that ran away?
Stays
and
gets killed. That's Seth.
Does he die in the game?
I don't think you see him again in the game, but that was him.
Well, that is a variation from the game because that does not happen in the game, correct?
Yeah, no. Oh, this whole thing doesn't happen in the game. But we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah, but like anyway, so we have that scene, and oh my god, it's a whole thing. We have Maria and Tommy making eye contact with each other, knowing what's going down. Tommy's running down, getting that flamethrower because again, two people will make an exit. Not the coolest. And they're trying to all fight these bloaters. We go back to Abby and Dina because it's a cut back and forth. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of drama. Mm-hmm. So we go back and Abby and Dina and Joel have made it to the cabin and everybody's like trying to fix it. Mel is really on top of it, trying to get them to warm up, trying to give them food, making sure they don't have like frost happening. Dina is noticing. Dina is very aware of everything, watching, looking at people, looking at tags and like trying to figure out who they were and like, where are you from? Who are you? Then this is when we see the gun being pointed at Joel and Abby pretty much tells her intentions about what's going on. After she's kind of given the hint, like, this is so-and-so. This is Joel. This is Dana. Like she makes a giant announcement. All of them are like, what? What? And so that has happened. And Abby begins her speech about what she is doing, who she was, and how she lost everyone. And she's like, do you know who I am, essentially? And he was like, are you military? She's like, do we look like military? And, he does a little observation. He's like, no. He's like, wait, are you Firefly? And he kind of gets that. And then she's like, didn't you know? All the Fireflies are dead. Drama. And then at this point, he gets shot in the knee. She takes his kneecap out. At the same time, they have Dina. Dina's freaking out, and Abby instructs them to put Dina to sleep. So, like, gives her medicine. So she gets knocked out, and she falls out, and all the bad things are happening. All the while, Ellie and Jesse have also gone on patrol. So they actually don't know what's going down. Because the storm has gotten so bad, they are told to, get shelter. So they go and do their thing, put the horses up, get into shelter, lay about. It turns out to be Eugene's place. Lots of weed, lots of good bongs, all the things there. If you need it, she talks about all the things that she's going to take back. And this was a variation as well that I know we're going to talk about. But here we have a representation of who Gene was. And we find out that Gene had been a Firefly as well, and that he quit a while ago because he was tired of all the killing, quote unquote. A conversation comes up about how it was really sad when Joel had to put him down. And that's kind of the end of that story in that moment. We don't know much more of that. While all this is happening, they do get an alert. And this is kind of pre-attack on the Jackson. They just know it's coming. Mm-hmm. And people are calling them and saying, we can't find Joel. We can't reach Joel. We can't find Dina. So Ellie and Jesse are like, we're down. Let's go. So they immediately get their stuff and immediately make their way up. They make a plan to go around so they can cover more space. So they split up. Jesse goes one way, Ellie goes the other, and that's where we come back. Again, back in the town, big bloater going after Tommy. Tommy's about to die. We've got a flamethrower that is rapidly losing gas. And he's like, oh my God, I'm about to die. Like you could see it everywhere. And then as that ends, the bloater dies. He gets roasted really, really well. Really, really good and roasted. And he comes back to battle and seeing all the dead bodies, but he's still going after all the other infected because that's obviously happening as he's trying to round out that end of the battle there. All the while, I didn't forget to tell y'all that Joel does see what's happening in Jackson because he sees all the flames and he's trying to rally. He was trying to rally everybody back to go to there. Yeah, again. When he figured out what was going down, he knew what was happening. Abby gives a big speech about what's happening. He says, just kill me. I'm so tired of the speech. If you're going to do it, do it. So at the same time, Abby finds a bag of golf clubs, the infamous golf clubs. And I'm pretty sure we got trolled with that comment that I read that day.
Yes. I was going to say something, but I was like, we can't explain why it's a pun, I think it's a pun.
Yeah, yep, I think it was. So she takes that 9-iron and goes to town on a very brutal beating on him. And she is taking out all her rage and everybody's just watching. And if you watch the faces of her friends and her allies, you have different emotions between yes, vengeance, and yes, enjoyment, and yes, disgust. There's several different, and concern. As this going down, we have Ellie's hearing this. Ellie has approached the cabin. She made it first. She sees their horses and she's like, okay, what's happening? Goes in, got to run. She hears noises and can't figure out what it is. And as she opens the door, she realizes something that Joel is in there. And as that happens, she comes in. She gets attacked because she didn't see everybody because she's in a panic. And the gun is taken from her and she's put down. Not after, but I mean, first she definitely takes a swipe with a knife, gets one of them in the face. Manny gets a cut in the face, which he is not happy about the entire time. But she's put down and having to witness what is happening. The rest of the crew, Abby's crews, just tell her to get it over with. They're done. We got to go. We got to go. And so the final blow is with the broken club shanked to the head, essentially, to Joel. We see Joel. He does try to get up as Ellie is pleading for him to get up. Does not get up. Ellie tells them, I will kill you all. I will find you and I will kill you all. They leave her out the door very quickly and leave. We have her just alone with Joel's body because Dina's passed out and not awake. Jesse makes his way up there eventually. As the scene clears at Jackson Hole or Jackson, Wyoming, they have defeated all of the infected, but now they're having to kill off their own people who have been bitten and clean up the mess that is there. Tommy and Maria are united and are okay and walk away. And the final scene, we see Ellie, Dina, and Jesse on horses dragging Joel's body back to the encampment or back to the village. End scene.
I'm about to cry right now. It's terrible. Oh my God.
It is all terrible. It is all terrible.
Oh man. Very good recap. Oh no.
Okay. How are you?
I'm good. This is okay. This is the one that I've been wanting to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm so relieved it's out there because it is just, we're going to get into it, but it was so emotionally devastating when I played it. And it was really hard. We weren't even sure what they were going to do.
Right.
Because Pedro Pascal, and we're like, are they going to do it? We don't know. They did it.
And they did it. And they stuck, like, even her Ellie walking in, I remember this in the playthrough, hearing the noise. So she didn't know exactly what was happening until she opens the door. It was spot on.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about that later because that kind of ringing sound is going to be recurrent from here on out. Mm-hmm. But okay, so let's get into it because I have a lot of thoughts about this. And I know a lot of people do.
I will say, Anney did not react the way I thought she was going to react. I thought you would be on the floor screaming Joel's name, much like the game. When we first played that through, Anney just sat in my partner's living room. This is like COVID during the lockdown.
Yeah.
With a piece of apple pie. It was for her birthday, I believe.
Yeah.
And sobbing and just saying, Joel, why? And then my dog, Peaches, just staring at her. I think it was more for the pie, but then she was also confused about what was happening.
Yeah.
So for us to see the scene, knowing that it was coming, we weren't sure if it was going to be this episode or the next. But you did not. You were in tears. Like the emotions were there, but it wasn't as in depth or like as long or as deep as I thought it was going to be.
I did upon another rewatch I had. I had a pretty good. Okay. But I think because I was just so relieved, which sounds awful, but like
I just anticipating it. Yeah,
I was anticipating it. I've played that game 15 to 20 times, and I'm not exaggerating. I don't think
it has to be more than that.
I think it's probably 15 to 20, but who knows? I could probably look. But I just was like, finally, I could share this pain with people. And I do feel kind of bad because I said I was looking forward to the Schadenfreude, and now I've gotten a lot of videos of it, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. You're so sad.
But
I
you also are
know.
like, I know what you're going through.
Yes. And it happened so early. We'll get into that in a second. But okay. First of all, let's start with the title name, which, as I said, had caused me a lot of consternation because it was the only title name they didn't confirm previously. Because they knew everyone who played the game, we were looking for, when is this episode?
Right,
when is this going to happen?
Right.
So it's titled Through the Valley. And this is a reference to a song that Ashley Johnson, who is the voice of Ellie in the game, covered. And you first hear her cover it in a 2016 trailer for The Last of Us 2, which tells you how long these games take to make, because the first one came out in 2013. And when in that trailer, it's very clear there's a vengeance story, but we didn't know what it was. And when you listen to the lyrics, it's all about like, I'm strong in my convictions. I'm going to do what I have to do. My soul will be damned, though I'm on the wrong side. And in the trailer, it's focused on Ellie. But in the show, it kind of starts on Ellie and then it moves to Abby, which I think was very purposeful. But that is where that song at the end comes from. But yeah, let us talk about the big battle scene. This actually is not in the game at all. There is a scene like it where the horde that's chasing Abby, Joel, and in this case, Tommy, which we'll talk about in a second. It wasn't Dina, it was Tommy. Back to the lodge where Abby and her crew are. They do throw like a lot of Molotov cocktails and set the horde on fire, but it is nothing like this. I suspect this was in part a response to the complaint that they didn't have enough infected in the first season. So they were like,
they wanted more action here.
Let's do it then.
Did you know the person who directed this episode did do some Game of Thrones as
sense.
well as Succession? And apparently in Succession, he directed one of the most famous deaths in Succession. So they brought him in. So it feels like they did that to make sure to have that feel.
Yeah. And I believe he said in the behind the scenes after the episode, he was like, the thing I knew I needed to get right was Joel's death. I knew I had to get the makeup right, get all that right. But one thing that is different about how the infected act in this is they're communicating almost like telepathically. I mean, it's through the roots, which is new to the show as well. But I didn't notice this until I was watching something later. But when the bloater, which is the big one, is coming, Tommy notices that they all start following, all the other infected called runners start following the bloater because they know the bloater can break in. So they're making strategic choices now. They're smarter now.
Which they did address in the beginning of the episode about the ghost story.
Yes. But they really, and then that scene where they're all chasing after Abby and Joel and Dina, and then they kind of branch off it's like a fish school coming together. They're coming together in a way that's very scary. And the bloater in the game is very difficult. And by the way, they also explode when they die. So we were all screaming at the TV no, Tommy's gonna die.
We did.
But they got rid of that for the show. So Tommy is fine. But the flamethrower is one of your most powerful weapons. You get it at the end of both games. And for Tommy, the flamethrower in the game also is only a campfire kind of amount of fuel. But he had 2 full canisters of gas, and this bloater was not going down. So that suggests that they're evolving and becoming stronger to humanity's defenses. Also, I have to say, with that, you hear that growl of the bloater, I was like, no, he's coming.
She did. Before we could see it, she kept saying, it's coming, I hear the bloater. One thing we do have in our house, because my partner really, really gets excited about sound, is a pseudo surround sound setup. So you do have that background noise in the behind you.
Yes, but that sound is so ingrained. You're like, no, he's around here somewhere. There's a bloater. But also I did love, and I think your partner pointed this out too, but there's this scene where you can, when the bloater's coming for Tommy on like a one-on-one fight, you can see its reflection in the window. That was cool. That was really cool. I guess this isn't part of the big battle scene, but I'm going to include it because it was a pretty big set piece. But the scene where Abby is crawling under the fence and it's like collapsing under all of those infected is like straight from the game. And it's terrifying because you're kind of crawling, which, by the way, you do play as Abby. We're going to talk about that in a second. But at this point, you're playing as Abby, and you're crawling under. And that was really good. I also just want to kind of flag the dogs. So the second game introduces this very terrifying functionality where people have dogs that can smell you when you're hiding. So you can't just like hide in the bushes like I like to do. The dog will find you. So you have to either run or kill the dog. I don't know what they're going to do in the show, but I will say if they follow the game, there is going to be at least one dog death.
Unhappy.
Yes. I'll try to warn everybody once we get to that. If I think they're going to do it,
You're going to be the warning.
I'll try to warn you, but I don't know. I have no idea. But that is a new thing they introduced in the second game. But it was really cool. It felt very Helm's Deep or Game of Thrones. And I did like seeing how prepared they were. And it was also kind of so sad because even with all those preparations, just the carnage. Absolute carnage. And Jackson is not in a good shape, which again, this did not happen in the game. None of this happened in the game. I think they added it in both because of the, people will like it, but I think they also put it in there because it added a lot more drama in terms of we had so many moving pieces. Everybody's in danger. We don't know what's going to happen here.
Right.
And it was effective. It happened so fast and it's like bouncing back between so many things.
Yeah, they did squeeze a lot of drama in one episode.
An hour. It's only an hour. Oof. So I did want to touch on some key differences before we get to the big thing we must talk about. So one is, as we mentioned in the game, Jesse, it's Tommy and Joel that go on patrol together, and it's Ellie and Dina that go on patrol together. And then Jesse later finds Ellie and Dina at Eugene's hideout. And he's like, oh God, we can't find Joel and Tommy. So that's different. I have a couple of reasons for why I think that is. But I will say, when Abby's doing her like, hey, here are our names. Dina definitely picked up on that and remembers all their names,
right,
which I believe is replacing a mechanic in the game where you find all their photos. So I think it's...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because she knows all their names. She saw the patch. And another one, a huge one that I'm going to talk about more in a second, is that in the show, Abby's motivation. In the game, you do not at all. You have no idea.
Right.
You've got your theories, but you've got no clue. And it kind of completely changes how that scene plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Then yes, the destruction of Jackson, that's new. I do think it's a pretty stark reminder that they're not safe and they got kind of complacent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously they were prepared, but they just had a lot of stuff that a lot of people outside of Jackson don't have.
Mm-hmm.
They had this nice celebration the night before. So when Joel sees Jackson on fire and he makes the choice ultimately to trust Abby or be like, okay, we'll go with you. That kind of makes it worse that he dies not knowing, just knowing that one Jackson is...
There's so many things.
I know it's awful. It's so bad. I love it though. But yeah, he dies like knowing Jackson's on fire and all the people he loves are there, but also Ellie is right there and watching it. So that is different. I read some interesting. I was watching a good breakdown of it today, and I also read that, you know, kind of when Jesse and Ellie go out and they see the storm and they're like, oh no, it'll be fine, we don't have to worry about it, and then it turns out they definitely did. But also Abby is in the mountains, so it's sort of like dismissing this threat that was up there, and Abby unintentionally is the one that awakens all of those infected when she falls down, and Abby was there for Joel. So it's just kind of a mess of the fallout of the decisions these characters make, which is sort of something we're going to see a lot of coming forward. But all right, let's talk about the big thing. Joel's death. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Like I said, I'm really relieved it's out there. I'm so ready to talk about it. I have gotten so many texts about it, including from people I haven't heard from literally 2 years. Didn't even say what they're talking about. Just said, how could you? And I assume they're talking about this.
Which is hilarious, because it's not like you controlled the game in any least way.
No, but it was great. I was like, oh, yeah, sorry. And it is like, I'm joking about it because it was really painful. Like, I went through the 5 stages of grief with this game. And I started with denial. But I'm just gonna be real with you. He's dead. He's dead.
Sorry, y'all. He's not gonna. There's no magic in this one.
Nope. He is not coming back. He is dead. There are a lot of flashbacks that he'll be in, so that we understand what happened over the 5 years we missed. So he's not gone, I guess. Pedro Pascal will be back, but he is dead. And one of the reasons I say this is that when the game first came out, they had this fake out trailer where a lot of the scenes that you play later in the game, you see Joel in them. It turns out it's not Joel. It's Jesse, actually. So they pulled it. So I thought he was going to come back. I saw what I saw, and I was like, can't be. I saw the trailer.
This is not true.
I was really like, I don't know what this is, but this has got to be wrong. But it was incredibly, incredibly painful. A lot of tears over many playthroughs. But another thing with this is, we talked about this in the episode we did on the most recent remaster. There's a documentary about how this game got made. And a lot of things went wrong because of the pandemic. One of the big ones was that they delayed the game both because of supply chain, because of the pandemic. And they knew this was going to be a huge spoiler, and they were trying to protect it. But that made a fan, in quotes, really angry. And because the engineers, the designers were working from home, this fan was able to get into their servers and was like basically doing kind of a hostage threat with the game, where it's like, I'm going to leak a scene every day until you release the game. And he got frustrated and eventually was like, yeah, Joel dies, here's the scene. And it blew up. Like, people were furious. And this is, if you remember in the last one, I said stay away from Reddit when it comes to Last of Us 2. It had a huge impact because the game is meant to be played. It's meant to go, you got to go through the whole thing. It's like grief. You got to go through the whole thing. And so people were seeing this one scene and they were so outraged by it, to the point, like, I've had people who've never played the game tell me they hate it for XYZ. And I'm like, but that's not actually what happens. And like, oh, but they've heard this kind of like Reddit dialogue. And it's really sad. It's really heartbreaking because, as I said, the first game came out in 2013. This one came out in 2020. So 7 years of work, and to have it leaked and then torn apart and then get death threats for it. It's pretty awful. But it also is kind of funny because some of the people involved are like, I don't care if you get spoiled on the show, man. I'm done with that. I was like, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But anyway, I do know that they wanted to kill. Now I know they wanted to kill Joel off pretty early in the show too, because they were worried that it would get out. So they still care a little, but
right.
Yeah. Anyway, but I had no idea. I had never experienced anything like this in a game. But you start as playing Joel, who you played most of the first game as, and Joel tells Tommy what happened in the first game with the Fireflies and with Ellie and her being immune. And then after the title card, that's where it starts the scene with Jesse, who's waking her up for morning patrol, which we saw in this episode. And you start controlling Ellie. Another thing they did is you knew, like I said, it was a vengeance tale, but they made you believe it was Dina. Dina was the one that was going to die. And that's why at first I was like, maybe that's why they put Dina here.
Oh.
I think they were just kind of trying to save.
Still messing with us?
I think so. I have a theory, but I'm going to wait for the next episode to explain. But yeah, we really thought it was her. And I remember when I got this game, I went and found it. Here's what it says on the back. Experience the devastating physical and emotional consequences of Ellie's vengeance as you embark on a relentless pursuit of those who wronged her. And I knew I was in for it. I was like, oh no. This is going to be rough. And it was. It was. But it was rougher than I could have ever imagined. And Joel's death happened so fast in the game. It's within an hour. It does in the show too, but it's just like everything falls apart so quickly. And it completely shifts what you think this is going to be. Wow. Especially because you've got like the relationship between Joel and Ellie being so fractured. And then he's dead. Hour. Oof. Yep. And to reiterate, you had no idea who the these people were that were coming in or why they were there. You didn't know why I'm controlling this random character because you're controlling Abby within the first hour as well. You don't even know who they're looking for. The first time I played it, I thought they were looking for Ellie. But no, you don't know. And yeah, you control Abby at the fence part. You're looking for these patrols. It's a real mind. And there's actually one that's wilder, way wilder later that I cannot wait to talk about. And then there's another one that just hits you where it hurts. Oh, they love doing that. They love doing it. But the shock factor of this death is really hard to overstate because nope. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. It does play out differently in the show because of, Abby's motivations, which gives it an added layer of tension because but I think it diminishes the shock. But people who haven't played the game and just watched the show, you can write in and tell me. I'm not sure. I've seen a lot of different reactions. Interestingly, I've seen a lot of, hey, they humanized Abby a bit more in the show. Because at this point in the game, you have no idea. You have no clue. But you feel really helpless. And I feel like they captured that in the show as well. Where it's just like everything is unraveling and you're too late. Or you made the wrong decisions. And you can't stop it now. But it is also the consequences of your actions as a character and as a gamer. So that is one thing I love about this game, is it really makes you question some of the things you've done. Because, you know, a lot of video games like this, not necessarily with the humans in the game, but it's kind of fun to kill clickers if you know what you're doing. Like, that's sort of the point, is it's like, this is the objective. And then this comes in and is like, but actually there's consequences to what you did. Yeah. And now you've got to face that. Woo! Which brings us to Abby. One of the reasons I always say it like that is because Ellie gets so obsessed with revenge, she just starts repeating Abby's name. It's one of my favorite, like, most disturbing scenes in the game. But it became a whole thing when we would play it. I would do playthroughs. We would just say Abby.
We would include that in other games. Yes,
we would. Which I have looked up. Her name, Abby, means my father is joy, which makes sense. So in the show, she is the same age as Ellie is currently when she found her dad dead. So we're going to see a lot of these, a parallel. Abby was 19 when she found her dad dead. Now Ellie has witnessed a father figure die in front of her. Abby has this whole speech about how she broke her code. She does not get to have the speech in the game because they are trying to obscure her motives. So in the game, she's like, basically like, do you know who I am? And Joel's like, just get it over with. And she does. Whereas in the show, she has this whole speech. And then Joel says, just get it over with. And she does. But she has this whole thing about her code, which I'm very interested in because that doesn't track with how I know the code of the WLF. But we'll find out more about that, I am sure. But she breaks it too. And she knows I think that's one of the lines in the song is so resonant, is it's, you know, I know I'm on the side of the wrong. I know I'm going to be damned for what I did, but she decided it was worth it. This is also an instance where she's basically like, tell me the truth and we'll go from there. And he does tell her the truth, even though he didn't for Ellie or Gail, the therapist. Another really heartbreaking thing about this is kind of the accidental circumstances of it. There's a lot of things that could have gone differently. And Joel might still be alive, but she does accidentally get what she wants. Owen wants to convince her it isn't worth it. A lot of the other people in the group seem to think it's not worth it. She almost turned around because of the cold. Joel has a lot of instances where he almost went to Jackson, but then trusted her, saved her life, like a bunch of different things. And I think that's really reminiscent of all the questions that come after death. Like, what if I had done this? Or what are the ways I could have changed this outcome? And that's so painful. But yeah, I've read some really interesting articles about how the balancing act between making Abby like a villain and an anti-hero, which is so interesting to me because, like I said, she's a very divisive character. In the game, I don't think you would ever. There was never any worry with that. But again, you didn't know her motivations. You had no idea who she was. And that goes back to, she has the speech. We see all the graves. The dream / flashback that she has at the beginning, where she's talking to her younger self and she says, I don't know you. That's going to be pretty prominent, I think, throughout. It is in the game, but it's like she doesn't recognize who she's become. Her younger self doesn't recognize who she's become. But also she hasn't faced the trauma of what happened. So she is unable to go into the door. And that is something that will come up a lot. And it's actually really interesting representation of trauma, in my opinion. From here on out, if they follow the game, Ellie's also going to have a recurring nightmare involving a door that won't open or being too late. She also, so the alarm, the reason I gasp at the beginning before anything can even come on the screen, is that sound, that alarm Abby hears in her dream is just so iconic to me. Ellie's is the sound, that like piercing sound that they did include in the show when Joel dies, but they also included it in the trailer for the second season. And everybody who'd played the game was like, you jerks. We know exactly what this is. But one thing I also wanted to bring up here, in the first game, Joel kills the nurses too, when he goes into the operating room to save Ellie. And in this, I feel like they kept them alive so they were witnesses and they could explain what he looked like, and that's how they found Joel. But that is another fallout of what he did. Is Abby's dad is believed to be the only person that could have made a cure, and he killed him, and also the nurses. And so that's pretty bad. But in the first scene where we see Abby in the show, where they're saying like, where Nora says, "Oh, it wouldn't even matter anyway, because there's nobody who could manufacture a cure anymore." That's what she's talking about. Also, that actress, I didn't realize is going to be in the next Naughty Dog game. Naughty Dog is the one that does The Last of Us, Intergalactic.
Nora is?
Mm-hmm.
I thought she's pretty significant. Like
yeah.
They've got her in for a good reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's also been in the live action Drake movie. So she's been around. I didn't know that, though. That was a new thing somebody pointed out to me. There's also kind of this, you can see the fracturing in their group that you kind of mentioned, Samantha, and the reactions to what Abby does. But Mel's is probably one of the biggest, where she says, you know, we said we wouldn't hurt anybody else. She's crying during this whole thing. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, the whole like Joel saving her life after he had his like, our lifeboat is swamped thing. I think this is a no good deed goes unpunished theme, which is going to come back later. Mm-hmm. And then when he didn't get to point this out in the game, because she just goes right in for the kill. But in the show, he says, you know, I saved your life. And she says, what life? And I think that's a throwback to what Marlene says in the first season, where she's like, what kind of life will Ellie have in this world? That does bring us to the golf club. It's a very iconic. It is so iconic. It's awful. I mean, it's horrific. They definitely, it cuts away much faster in the video game than it did in the show, but it's very brutal in the game as well. Both of them are bad. Both are bad. And this kind of brings us to a point I feel like a lot of people bring up. And so in the first episode of the season, when Gail says, it's not your fault, I know that, it's how you did it. I think that's going to be a recurring theme as well. And Gail's story is like Ellie's, if you believe that Joel didn't have a choice, which I think he did. But if you believe it, which I think Joel thinks he didn't have a choice, where she's like, I know you didn't have a choice, it's how you did it. He killed all of those people. And Abby spared Dina and Ellie, even if her murder of Joel was brutal, and Joel killed, according to this, 18 soldiers and 1 doctor. But in the game, it was war. It was more than that to save Ellie, which is that's pretty significant. But yes, also, as you mentioned, we read that kind of what we thought might be kind of an innocent review in the last episode. That I was like, I think it might be a pun, because it said they hope they iron out their relationship.
Yep, they got me. Trolling me.
But
I was like, oh, you sweet innocent. Oh, yeah, jerk.
The funny thing is, though, a lot of people who haven't played the game are like real mad. Understandably, I get it. And I saw a comment today. One of my favorite comments was, all y'all making golf puns that we didn't get, you sociopath. And so, like, I remember there was a bunch of articles that said something like The Last of Us to tease up for another season. And I'm like, yeah, we were all making these puns. And then there was an instance where Bella Ramsey just posted under a Taylor Swift video where Taylor Swift was swinging a golf club, Joel. That gave me a good chuckle. I mean, it's horrible. It's so sad, but it was like a traumatizing event that we now have all been like, I got through that at least. Yep. let me make a golf joke. Even Pedro Pascal did it. He posted something today about it.
Oh, Pedro.
Yeah. But, and we're going to talk about this more later, one of the sad things is because Abby is such a divisive character, the voice actor who was in season 1, she was one of the nurses, and Caitlin Dever, who plays her in the show, have gotten death threats. And I believe Caitlin Dever has a bodyguard, or had one. And Isabella Merced said, like, you know, Abby's not a real person. Caitlin Dever's not Abby. But people were so angry about it. And, you know, it hurt. And I was mad too. But I'm not going to send any death threats. It was a good story. I was mad because it was a good, painful
also, this is a
story.
Fictional tale.
Yes. You don't have to play it. It's okay. It's all right. I also learned, and this is really sad, that her mom had died a few weeks before filming this scene.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, that's rough. That's difficult.
Yeah.
And this is something I'm really interested to see how it continues, but like the different conversations I've seen on playing out from like people who played the game and people who haven't, they're pretty different in some ways. It's really interesting. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, but I did want to touch on briefly. One of the reasons this game resonated with me so much is my dad had died less than a year before this came out. And it wasn't on good. We didn't have a good relationship when he died. There was a lot of unresolved issues. And so this just is like, it really resonated with me. And I've said before, but I'm able to experience emotion easier through fictional things. And so it was a really cathartic grieving process for me. And I mean, it might sound silly to some of you, but I really did go through the grieving process with this. I went through denial and anger and I was like all of these things. It was so powerful. And it was really painful. And it also came out during the pandemic. And I don't know why, but I'm one of those people that, for me, that somehow playing a game about an infection during a pandemic gave me some kind of release, the same way a horror movie might. But, so one thing I did want to point out, I mentioned in the last episode, there's a scene they cut out that is huge, in where after the dance and Ellie and Joel get into their fight, and Ellie sees Joel on the porch with her guitar, and she walks away. You'll notice she has the guitar back the next morning when Jesse comes to get her. And that's when she says, like, you know, hey, we worked it out, or basically we're working on it. So I would just point that out. And I'll just say she also really, really loves music. She has all of those vinyls and the tapes, and her window is covered in music sheets. That's going to be important later too. Another thing, we'll find out about this, because as we said, this wasn't in the game, but Eugene's whole story now's got another layer, because Ellie was clearly like, oh, he was a firefly? uh-oh. And Jesse's like, oh yeah, it's a shame. Couldn't be saved, right? There's a scene I don't know they'll include in the show, but basically Ellie's having this thought, like if they'd had a cure, he could have been saved. So kind of that survivor's guilt that she struggles with. Something else to bring back as we start this journey is Ellie's fear of ending up alone, which she mentions in the first game in the first season. And also just her kind of loss of innocence and the revenge that is coming. It's a lot of like cycle of violence and trauma. So just like Joel's action had consequences, so do Abby's, and so will Ellie's. And there are, as I said, there are a lot of flashbacks. The ringing sound in the trailer that I mentioned, she'll have like these PTSD flashbacks in the game if there's a loud sound or something like that. And there are also just non-PTSD ones, but they're sad still, but that's something to look forward to.
I like how you're saying look forward to.
Yeah. Also, just quick shout out to the women leaders on the show, for better or worse. There's a lot of women leaders.
Making them confront some things.
They really, really can. They really can. This brings us to my random wrap up at the end. I did want to call out the scene between Ellie and Jesse at the beginning. I love that scene where they're kind of teasing each other. I'm so glad they put that in the show. I love that scene. Also, I forgot to mention the composer, Gustavo Santaolalla. He was in the last episode. And he's also sort of a character in the game. He has a banjo. And in the remastered version, you can play him in guitar free play mode. Which, by the way, you can play the guitar in Last of Us 2. I'm actually, like, that's the worst thing I'm really bad at it. But you can do that. He was playing at the dance. Seattle, I realized we kind of might have spoiled it for some people because we've talked all about how the second season mostly takes place in Seattle.
True.
And that's where Abby's from. But anyway, there's a lot of hints of Seattle. I'm told that the beer, I think it was Red Rock, that was on being advertised on the walls from Seattle. There's a lot of music from the Seattle grunge period. And there's a lot of kind of themes of like that period of like the lack of respect of authority and things like that. Also, this is going to be a bigger conversation later, but I think that some people get really frustrated. I'm not saying they're wrong to, with Ellie, but I would just say, like, I would remember she's 19. There's a lot of lying and taking choices away from her that's happening and underestimating her when she could defend herself. It does really suck. Like, I mean, it's awful because you want these characters to get along. It feels really painful. But I mean, I don't know. I would just urge people to give her some room. And also, like, she knows he's lying because it just doesn't really hold up what he's saying. And because he's telling her, like, you can't tell anybody about the immunity, even though he said there were a bunch of immune people, like, so she knows, and it's just a frustrating feeling, I think. But that being said, that does bring us to the end of this episode, and to some notes for the future. I know you're hurt. You might be angry.
Christina, are you okay?
I would urge patience. It's a really good story. You are meant to go through it. It's gonna hurt. But that is one of the reasons why Samantha and I have discussed it's kind of a concern of the wait between seasons, because you're really meant to go through it all at once. But I'm excited I'm very excited. It's also like a very, you never know when your time is up. You never know when is the last time you'll see someone. And that's going to be a pretty big theme. And also parallels. There's going to be a lot of parallels. Same side, same coin, as me and my friend like to say. I even got her a coin that says that.
That's true.
Yes, when I'll explain that when we get to that section. But yeah, in the meantime, I hope you're okay. And I hope you're enjoying this, whether you watch it, play it, or don't. And we'll be back next week. We'll see the fallout of this. In the meantime, if you would like to email us, you can. Our email is hello@stuffwenevertoldyou.com. You can also find us on Blue Sky at Mom Stuff Podcast, or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff We Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have a TeePublic store, and we have a book where I do talk about Ellie. You can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you, and sorry.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is production by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts on iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.